Oi, MOUZ up here. Hey, I'm Smirky, and today we're going to do something a little bit different because of the Rio Major. I've recently watched at least one of every team's demo in this stage, and I'll use my analysis and what I've gathered to predict who's going through, as well as going for that diamond coin. I'll just get the best teams out of the way first. Vitality shouldn't have an issue making their way in. They have been looking really solid since the upgrade with Spinks, and recently winning the packed out stadium of EPL 16.
Are you with me?
It can seem somewhat surprising that they're in this stage, but they lost 2-1 to Heroic, which is not disappointing, and to Big in a best of 1 and Dust 2, where they just played completely off with some good reads with Tabson. My next squad is Cloud9. I don't have much to say, but all round, they are a great team, and because of Spirit and a very close game against NIP, they're in the challenges, but they should make it through. Also knowing Glaze, he's probably going to put them 3-0. We have Outsiders up, and I don't think they have quite shown they can reach the playoffs yet, but I'm fairly convinced they should make it to Legend Stage, with them just winning at Rotterdam, and recently beating teams like ENT, MOUZ, and Heroic. Also, James Calling, especially during the majors, are just... With new young blood being tested and injected into the main roster, MOUZ has strong pieces with Frozen being the star of the squad, when in the past he was overshadowed by Rops. He now gets the resources available to frag and takes space dominantly like Banana. We also have new entry duos in JDC and Exertion, who are unfaithful and will surprise you on how fast your head can leave your body. I haven't even mentioned Torze, who's already a much better upgrade from Acor, and Texas Coles hasn't been looking shit compared to the Rops lineup. On most days of the week, this team will beat anyone above the top 10 and will go through to Legends. OG will make it through to the next stage. Their players are heavily underrated, with more notably Dexter having the ability to compete with the higher tier Opers, and Flames who can open up the map like Ancient Mid and Creepin's House to paranoid the CTs. With Nex's idea of playing like a death ball on their T-sides, it's going to be difficult for teams to contain them. Up next is Big, and I expect them to make it through, but the stats for their map pool and in general don't look great. However, they have been versing a lot of higher tier teams like G2, FaZe, Heroic, and ENTS, who should be probably beaten Big, whereas they are generally taking care of business with teams not in the top 10. With Tabson's calling, the new young gents along with Searson hopefully performing at LAN, they will make it to the Legend Stage. Brazil is the home country of Furia, and they should be making it through. Some of the individuals on the roster have been looking really good, with Yuri and K-Serato. K-Serato has been a beast during EPL 16, and from what I remember, I think he was around the 4th or 3rd best player in the tournament. Even though the team does rely on art to make space, and he's been looking a bit shaky during these months, their aggressive, in-your-face playstyle should get them through. Imperial are my 3-0, and if I'm honest, I'm just being biased. I would love to see the Imperial guys make it to the Legend Stage, and see if they can replicate a similar run to Antwerp a few months ago, with the eyes of the biggest major yet watching. One of the CT Overpass demos I watched from them, the cause of the rounds they lost were more related to being outplayed and not being positioned correctly with each other, but also show some great versatility on a macro and micro level, with of course Fur doing what he does best. If I wasn't biased and hopeful, I'll probably think about a Fnatic or a Game Legion in the slot, but I'm hoping Imperial gets fired up for this major. Greyhound and IHC are both squads where they haven't got as much experience because they're from the Oceanic region, apart from Liaz who was with the Renegade squad and is the highest rated player in Greyhound and looks to be the star of this team. Do I think they make it? Probably not. All these teams should have Greyhound and IHC in their pocket, and both of them are likely for an 0-3. Because of the possible matchups for these teams in rounds 2 and 3, I'll put Greyhound as my 0-3 as I think it's a safer bet. 9Z. I don't think they have the right amount of firepower to make it, especially losing try to 0-0 Nation. Speaking of 0-0 Nation, there have been some promising prospects in Damu who have some pretty sick crosshair placement, Lator and Try, with the legend Cold being on the roster. However, their T-side looks slow and respectful, which could be taken advantage of against the higher tier teams. Bad News Eagles. B&E is a solid squad, and from what I've seen during the majors, they have been super fired up with their loose and reactive playstyle. However, I'm not convinced though they can take out a top 10, 15-ish team, as they generally struggle. Their first matchup is 0-0 Nation, and if they win that, EG is potentially up next, and I do expect a squad like B&E to beat EG, which should be able to put them 2-0. However, when you later have to verse a Furia to make it to Legend stage, I think that's when the crash will show, and sadly put them 2-3. For a long time, EG has been heavily underperforming, with a few notable names like Automatic, who has recently returned to CS, and Nealon, but he's more of a role player. Breezy is supposed to be the star of the team, but he's not been present since 2020, and Cirque, well, for someone who has the most expensive, impactful and scary gun, it's ridiculous how little he does with it. I think he should have been cut a long time ago, potentially for a prospect like Royal 2K. I expect them to win their opening matchup against IHC to put them 1-0, but they won't get any more wins during challenges. Fnatic and Gaming Legion are both teams who have shown some nice form recently. However, I think because of the matchups and what teams I think are going to make it through, for me it's not probable they jump into the next stage. On the flip side, these teams can be dangerous. If they can cause upsets, like Fnatic beats Cloud9, they could very well go 2-0 early, making it so they only need one more team to beat. And to be honest, I was also thinking of putting them 3-0, but well, I want that Imperial squad through the Legend stage. That's my picks, and what teams I think are going to make it through. Let me know if you had any differences from my pick'ems in the comments. Apart from that, thanks for watching, see you in a bit.